This is a short one like me. Dudes with Brews on a Porch presents Michael Brews.
Dude. It's a Michael Brew on Dudes with Brews on a Porch. Joined with me is the one, the only Delvin Cox of the Delvin Cox Experience. Delvin, thanks for hanging out, man.
Thank you, Drew, man. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing real good. A little bit tired, but I'm getting ready for bedtime soon before I start the next third shift adventure.
What I used to work third shifts quite often now I think about it. What is it like, man? Just giving people an idea of what is it like working that third overnight shift.
It's I don't know. It's really confusing because you want to be awake for the rest of the day, but then you're just exhausted. And I have two kids. I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, so it's not like I can just come home and crash. I got to hang out with them till my wife gets home, from work or something like that, and then it sucks. You're like a vampire, and then my schedule, I'm done, like my weekend, they say, starts on Friday morning after 7 a.m. So if I want to do anything, I got to stay up till Friday night. I got to stay up all night for like 24 hours or more, and then it's awful.
I remember those days. The only schedule I hate worse than working overnight is working the schedule where it's like 2 to like 11, 2 to 12.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that either. It's where I am right now, and eventually I'll get on that first shift grind. I'm hoping and live somewhat of a normal life. But until then, it's the same old. But yeah, you have your podcast, the Delvin Cox Experience. Let's talk about that a little bit. I love the show, by the way.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that.
You do the every episode you start with the 5 for 5. Now, how do you think of those? Do you just randomly think of them, or do you kind of have a list?
At one point, I used to write them down.
Okay.
But then they used to always be the same at one point. But what happened was people started catching on. And then when I have them on the podcast, they just already have the answers pre-ready. So I just started thinking them up on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so in I think it was your last episode, you asked about Batman or Superman. Are you a Batman guy?
I like Batman a lot. Yeah. My favorite superhero probably is Captain America.
Yeah, I'm a really big Batman fan. How do you feel about the whole Joaquin Phoenix being the Joker thing?
I would like it if he was the only Joker.
Right. Did you like Jared Leto?
No.
No, you didn't?
I wasn't a fan of it, but I was interested to see where they go with it.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I think they're going to do the Joaquin Phoenix movie, and then they're going to do a standalone Jared Leto and Harley Quinn Joker movie.
The thing that bothers me about that is the fact that we didn't get to see Batman and the Joker.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see.
That's what everyone wants to see.
These standalone movies with the Joker. Joker doesn't need a backstory.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. And these are one of the many things that you talk about on your podcast. Let's get a little history on it. How did it start?
Okay. And this will answer the question why my email is different than what my podcast is. Originally, the podcast was the Mic Drop podcast. It was with me and my best friend named Al. Y'all may know him as I Am Vision on Twitter.
Okay.
But he was going through a whole bunch of stuff, and he couldn't podcast anymore.
Oh.
Like, period. At the time, he was not able to do it. He didn't have time to do it. He was just going through a lot. And you have to understand that. You got to relate to that. But me, I've always had a passion for podcasting. Even when I first started with him, I was the one who was like, let's do this. Let's make a mark with it, So it got to the point where he couldn't do it no more. I didn't want to do the Mic Drop podcast for somebody else because I didn't feel that would be genuine.
Yeah.
Because a lot of shows that kind of go on when they with the same name, even though they have different co-hosts, and it's not the same. Sometimes it works. A lot of times it doesn't.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with mine, actually. Originally, it was with me and my friend Josh, and then after he was on the first 9 episodes, he had a baby, and then life just kind of caught up with him, and he was real busy, and then I just kept going. And I was kind of the same way. I was like, hey, let's do this. I have a little bit of a history in radio, and I've always wanted to do my own podcast and everything like that. So he was along for the ride, and then he wasn't, which he's still my best friend, but I kept the name, I kept the show going a little bit, and I like it.
But see, even with that, I think that's fine because you only did 9 episodes with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So you still were kind of gelling. I I want to say 50 episodes with Al.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a pretty big change for him to not be able to do it anymore. Then all of a sudden, here's this guy, this other person.
Here's this random guy who I have to kind of gel with for 20 more, 30 more episodes and stuff. And since it was a 2-man podcast, that's a lot harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do my own podcast. And I'm a gamer. I love video games, but I didn't want to talk about video games because all my friends literally do video game podcasts.
Okay.
So it's like 1,000 video game podcasts out there. So I figured why compete with them, because it kind of splits the market. If everybody you know does video game podcasts, at some point in time, like, I don't want to hear another video game podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured what would I want to hear, what I would want to listen to. And one of the people who came to mind was Kevin Smith.
I love Kevin Smith. He's one of my heroes.
Me too. And I kept hearing him saying about podcasting, if you want to do it, just do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I kind of looked at his formula in terms of stuff like Fat Man on Batman, where he would just sit down and interview people and things like that, and Smodcast, and where he talks about crazy stories and things like that. And even Tell Him Steve Dave, for that matter.
Tell Him Steve Dave is my all-time favorite podcast. I love it so much.
I love Tell Him Steve Dave. And, I listen to those podcasts. And then also, I kind of listen to stuff like the video game podcast, like Kind of Funny and Married to the Games and different stuff like that. And I said, what if I just interviewed those people?
Yeah.
Kind of like how Kevin Smith does, because that's basically what my podcast kind of is. It's essentially Fat Man on Batman, the original version, not the one with Mark Bernardi, which is fine too, but just one man talking to people about things that he loved. Mm-hmm. And instead of talking about Batman specifically, I'm talking more about everything and getting different points of view from people, whether it's somebody who likes comic books. Like one of the episodes I had on was a guy named Rodney Barnes. And I don't know if you know who Rodney Barnes is, but he was a writer for the Boondocks.
Awesome.
The cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah,
so I got to talk to him, and he wrote for the Falcon comic book that came out recently, and he writes now Lando Calrissian's comic book, Double or Nothing, if I'm correct, that's the name of it. I got to talk to him. That was a big honor of me, and me and him talk all the time now, and it's really cool to sit there and have the opportunity to talk to people and find out things that you didn't necessarily know.
Yeah.
And it's cool to just sit there and interview and hear people's side of the story, no matter how big or how small their podcast or whatever they do may be, because you can learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I really like about yours is you have the variety of people and the different kinds of shows and everything like that. So you're down in Florida, right?
Miami, Florida.
Crazy. So are you a Dolphins fan?
No.
No?
The thing about the Dolphins is my uncle's a huge Dolphins fan, but I never really got into the Dolphins because even when I was watching football when I was younger, mm-hmm. I was a huge Bo Jackson fan.
Okay.
LA Raiders like crazy because Bo Jackson had a cartoon show. I don't know if you look like you're younger than me, way younger than me. They had a cartoon show called Pro Stars.
Okay.
You heard of Pro Stars?
I don't.
Okay. Pro Stars was a cartoon show where they had Wayne Gretzky,
all right,
Rick Jordan, and Bo Jackson. They were like this superhero team.
That's awesome.
That's a real thing.
I'll have to check that out sometime. Get a little YouTube clip or something like that.
It was really cool, and watching that show got me into loving Bo Jackson because Bo Jackson played 2 sports, and he was awesome at both sports, and he was an awesome running back, and all this stuff. And then he had the whole thing where this is something you also should look up. Bo Knows campaign.
Okay.
Where Bo personally say Bo knows sports, Bo knows this, Bo knows that, and like you ever used to watch wrestling?
A little bit, not too much.
You remember Mr. Perfect?
Yeah.
He was kind of like that.
Okay. That's awesome.
And as a kid, I kind of like that was. I always found that to be awesome, and I kind of because that was his team.
Yeah. So you like are you sticking with the Las Vegas Raiders then?
I don't watch as much football as I used to watch.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Because there are many things, but one because it's so much politics and everything that goes into football. Like, all right,
I hear you.
I'm done. It's not because I'm for or against per se. It's like, sometimes I just want to watch a sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm a big I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm a huge Green Bay Packer fan. And
Brett Favre.
I like Brett Favre. I like Aaron Rodgers maybe a little more. I don't know. It's a hard choice, but I always
Green Bay has been good with quarterbacks.
yeah.
It's been a rarity when you don't see Green Bay without a good quarterback.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky in the state of Wisconsin for the QBs, but yeah, I was gonna ask you how you feel about Jay Cutler, but if you don't really follow, yeah, he's
I like
right.
him. He's serviceable. I think I don't even know how you describe Jay Cutler. He's one of those guys where he can win you a game that you wouldn't expect to win, but then he can lose you a game that you did expect to win.
People always make the joke that Jay Cutler is also one of Green Bay's best quarterbacks. So, but yeah, that's awesome, man. Haven't been down to the Miami area. I've been down to like Sanibel Island, touristy stuff. I'd like to get down to Miami. How far is Miami from Gainesville?
Ooh, 3-4 hours.
Oh, is it? There's a music festival called The Fest that I've always wanted to go to. It's a big. I'm a huge like punk rock ska type of guy, and they have a huge festival every year down in Gainesville, and I definitely would love to get there someday, maybe.
That sounds cool. You should definitely do it, man. I am a type of person who likes to go to events and stuff like that. Now, like they have a thing down here in Miami called Florida SuperCon.
Okay.
It's basically like Comic-Con in Miami.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I went this year. I met Mike Coulter from Luke Cage. I met
that's awesome.
It's a lot of people. I met Sean Gunn.
All right.
He was Michael Rooker was there. It's just so many people that were there. It was such a cool event to go to.
Yeah, that would be pretty amazing. I've always wanted to go down to like Chicago Comic-Con and everything like that, but I haven't had the opportunity yet. But I would love to just sit down, listen to one of those panels. I listen to them all the time if they post them in like a podcast or something like that. Those are always like the first ones I like to listen to, just because I love all that geeky stuff as the quote unquote nerd stuff. And it's
funny you should mention that, because when I went to Florida SuperCon, my friend who also was on Twitter, I met him over Twitter. He went too, and we met up there. He's on @DLife. That's his Twitter handle. We met there, and I didn't see him for most of the day. And I'm like, I was like, where are you at? Oh, I'm upstairs. They were having like Kevin Conroy gave a speech, and I'm in all these events and stuff. I'm like, where the hell is all this stuff? I didn't see any of this stuff that you saw. And he's like, where are you at? I'm like, I'm downstairs talking to Mike Coulter. He's like, what? He's like, where are you? We literally were on opposite sides of the thing. Didn't see none of the events. He missed Mike Coulter. I missed Kevin Conroy's, I guess it was interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he said he was there. Tara Strong was up there giving it. They had like a Teen Titans reunion and stuff like that. And I missed all that stuff, but he missed like talking to Mike Coulter and Jerry Lawler and stuff like that. We was on two completely different sides and got two totally different experiences.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And with like those big festivals like that, even with like bigger like music festivals, you really gotta pick and choose your battles. It's like you want to embrace all of it, you want to take all of it in, but then you're like, oh man, what do you do? And sometimes it might actually come down to like one of your questions that you ask people is Batman or Superman.
Yeah,
which one do you go with?
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, but that's how it comes down sometimes, because it's so much stuff to do. And I love going to events like that, especially with my kids, because they can enjoy it. And when I was growing up, this nerd culture, which is not really nerd culture anymore, it's pop culture.
Right.
Was the thing where people would kind of like wear on their chest, They kind of hide it, even though I was never that guy who hid it. Like I used to love comic books when I was as a kid. I used to love cartoons. But even when I was growing up, there was this guy who was older than me. His name was Michael. And he was a huge Transformers fan. He had all the Transformers and stuff like that. He had like big old cassette tapes of all the seasons of the original Transformers and stuff. And people kind of like picked on him and bullied him because of that. And now like guys like that are like, oh, you're totally cool.
Yeah. It's crazy, like the shift of it, because, I grew up in the 90s, and I grew up in a time where comic books were definitely really popular still, but not really with my I want to see my generation, maybe the people I went to school with and things like that. And then I got into comic books kind of a little later in life, just with, some Batman, The Walking Dead. And now I love them all. And I have nobody to talk to about it. And it makes me sad. Like I've picked up the reboot of Kick-Ass and Hit Girl.
I wanted to read that.
They're good. Oblivion Song is really awesome, by Robert Kirkman. And then the Gravediggers Union, and then I still read The Walking Dead and everything like that too. So it's awesome. Everybody now, like even my friends and some people that are older than me, just look at me and they're like, "Dude, you're pretty nerdy." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely I am. I don't care. Like these are awesome stories. I'd rather read like a ton of comic books than some crappy artsy fartsy literature book if that is just boring as heck. Give me some good action, love and all that. I love the graphic novels. I really do.
I'll tell you what, then. Recommend me one comic book series I should try. I'm going to recommend you one.
All right. I would definitely say if you haven't read Oblivion Song, check Oblivion Song out. It's fairly new. Robert Kirkman's new one, and that's a good one. Or start with the new Kick-Ass. Okay.
Well, I'm going to recommend you the last run of Falcon that's written by Rodney Barnes. It's like 8 issues.
Okay.
It's right after he gives up being Captain America, essentially. So it's the fallout from that, but the story goes somewhere where you would not expect it to go.
Awesome.
And it's really cool. It's kind of metal.
Good.
Which you don't expect. It's something that happens that you would not expect. Like, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah, and that's what is awesome about even like with there's 10,000 Batman storylines out there by a million different authors, but they always try to take them in different ways. And I really enjoyed like the Hush series. I thought was really cool. And then you have Nightfall. You have all these different ones, and it's interesting to see how different authors take your beloved superheroes and can twist it and things like that. And things with like Captain America. And all that. I haven't read too many Captain America stuff, and I probably should read some more. I really want to get into some Spider-Man stuff, but I just don't know where to start. That's part of the problem with those big storylines is I don't know where to start, so I try to find the ones that are a little bit newer. I can get access to the back catalog a little bit easier and keep up that way.
Yeah, Spider-Man is difficult to get into because there's so many Spider-Mans now. It's like you have Miles Morales, which is awesome. You have Peter Parker, which is awesome as well. Then you have the book with both of them together. Then you have Spider-Gwen. It's just so much to get into with Spider-Man. There's so many stories that some intertwine, some don't.
Yeah, and it can be a bit confusing, even with when Suicide Squad came out before people saw it and most of them didn't like it. I thought it was okay. But people didn't know, and they're trying to find all these different storylines, all these different backstories, and try to learn more before they go see the movie. It's like, oh, where do we go? But and that's a fun thing to do too, kind of explore the different worlds and everything like that too. But I like the same thing when I watch like a TV show. I can't, if I'm starting a new series, I have to start at the pilot. Like I can't just dive into an episode of Game of Thrones and be like, oh, I think I'll like this. Let me just watch a random episode for 10 minutes. No, I have to start from the beginning.
Okay, I do too. Let me give you a TV series I think you should watch. It's an anime. You ever watch My Hero Academia?
No, that's on Netflix, isn't it?
I think it might be.
I think it is.
But it's excellent.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
The plot is very simple. It's just about a kid who wants to be a superhero in a world where basically most people in the world have some type of superhero ability.
Okay. And
he doesn't have one. So they basically told him like superhero in this world is like literally a job. You either be a superhero or a supervillain. And since he doesn't have an ability, which is called a quirk, they told him he can't be a superhero. But then he runs into his favorite superhero, saves him, and literally gives him his superpower. And he's trained to be a superhero.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out.
It's really cool.
I haven't watched too much anime in my life. The only anime I think I really got into was Pokemon.
I could definitely give you. I don't watch that much, but the ones I've watched are very good. That one's very good. and it's one called Death Note. Have you watched Death Note?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it. They made a live action movie of that too.
That movie was horrible.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That movie is nothing like the animated series.
Okay, I'll skip that then. I think the animated series is on Netflix as well. I currently only have Netflix, so I'll have to watch it.
Death Note is something you definitely should watch.
Awesome. Yeah, I love there's so many series that I want to get into, but right now just with constantly working, and I get so pissed off if I start a show and then all of a sudden I wake up, I fall asleep, and then I'm like, oh no, where am I? So it's,
man, that overnight shift sucks sometimes, man. I used to have to time my naps.
yeah.
I wouldn't sleep. I would just take naps, because I used to get off of work at 7:00 in the morning from working I want to say I went to work at 10:00 at night and get off 7:00 in the morning. Then I would get home, take an hour or two nap, then try to enjoy my day till 8:00 and then go to sleep, wake back up for another hour, then go to work.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times. Usually I usually stay up till about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then I go to bed. So I'm up for quite a bit, and we'll have to call this quits in just a few minutes because I do have to go to bed and get a little bit of sleep and be functional. But yeah, it's a whole different beast. But I got a wife, I got some kids to support, and that's what I got to do at the time. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, man.
But yeah,
do what
yeah, absolutely. And so before we go, let's plug your podcast. Where can they get a hold of you? Where can they get the podcast? When do episodes drop and all that?
Delvin Cox Experience is the name of the podcast. It drops every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can follow me on Twitter at Delvin_Cox. Also, I have 2 more podcasts that I'm a part of. I'm also a part of the Skyward Cast with me and Joey Craig, which is also on iTunes and everywhere you listen to podcasts at. And I'm also a part of another podcast called The Blog Boys with Christian from According to Sources, which is also a cool podcast, which is actually on the Delvin Cox Experience feed. So check out those podcasts if you get a chance, and holler at me on Twitter. I'm very approachable.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'm glad we finally got to do this. The first time around, my computer was being a pile of trash, and now we were finally able to talk a little bit. And look forward to talking to you maybe a little bit more in the future, and we'll go from there. But I really support your show. I love it, and we'll plug it as much as we can. And thanks for doing this, man.
Definitely, no problem. We got to have you on the Delvin Cox Experience too, man.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know.
Definitely.
Pew pew audio. Goodbye, everyone.